this lesson we're going to look at creating a double-sided leaflet using Microsoft Publisher 2010. Here are a number of examples of leaflets from the internet. This one is designed for the London Drug Policy Forum. It's nicely presented with good use of text and colour and a good selection of images. It's ideal for the audience at which it's aimed. This one is for Titanic the Musical. Now my issue with this is that it's a little busy and in places it's difficult to read the text against the background image. You need to bear in mind that we're constantly bombarded by images from one end of the day to the other, so we become quite selective about what we read. So if something is busy or difficult to read, we're not going to read it unless we find it very, very interesting. So you need to bear that in mind when designing your own leaflet. Okay, we're going to go to Microsoft Publisher. Now Microsoft Publisher offers a number of templates in relation to design. So if you need to design a brochure, business cards, greeting cards or newsletters, you can select your template. So we'll just select newsletters. Now you can see a number of templates that you could use. All you've got to do is substitute your text for their text, your images for their images, and then print it. So we're just going to go back and we're going to start from scratch. So the first thing you do is select blank A4 document. You go to page design, you go down to orientation and choose landscape. The next thing we're going to do is go to guides. Now Microsoft Publisher offers you a number of templates in relation to guides. You just select one and it appears over your document. However, we're not going to use one of the templates available. We're going to customize our template. So again you go to guides, select grid and baseline guides. In this case we're going to put in 3 columns with spacing of 1.7 and select OK. The reason for leaving the spacing between the columns is so that you can fold your leaflet and text doesn't get lost in the fold. Okay, back to Publisher. Now the next thing we're going to do is insert the second page. So you just go to Insert, Page. Now if you select Page, it may or may not contain your grid guides or whatever changes you've made. So the best thing to do is just go down to the arrow and select Insert Duplicate Page. So now my 2 pages are ready to start the leaflet. Now the first thing we're going to do is start working on the cover, which is on the right hand side. So I'm going to go to the home ribbon, choose draw text box. This leaflet is going to be for Fingal kettlebells. So the first word I'm going to type is Fingal. I'm going to choose a suitable font. Now you need to choose fonts with impact. So I'm choosing Arial Black. I'm keeping it relatively simple. And I'm going to go for size 48. I'm going to go to alignment and I'm going to centrally align it both vertically, that's between the top and bottom, and horizontally between the left and right. Now Fingal colours are red and black and I'm going to choose red for the word Fingal. But if you didn't like that colour, there's a template offering you a whole range of colours and also more colours, so you can choose whatever colour you want. The next thing I'm going to do is put in some effects onto Fingal. So in this case I'm going to put in engrave. And I just actually need to change that to red. Now what the engrave does is make it stand out a little bit. The other thing you need to remember in Publisher is that when you select various things, so in this case I have a text box with text selected, then you're offered further options. In this case you're offered drawing tools and text box tools. Now I'm going to draw another box. In this case put in the word kettlebells. Select it. Choose the font and again I'm going to choose Arial Black. And this time, because there are a lot of letters in it, I'm going to choose 26 in order that it will fit between the blue lines. It's important you stay between the blue lines because they tell you where the folds are and how wide the column is. So you need to keep that in mind. Now again, I'm going to go to alignment and I'm going to center align. And I would like black text because the colors for Fingal are red and black. And again, I'm going to go to engrave. So it just makes the word kettlebells pop out a little bit. I'm just going to select that and I'm going to go to drawing tools and shape fill. And I'm just going to choose this so that you can see the effect on the word kettlebells. And now we're just going to go back into that again and I'm going to go no fill because I don't want a fill around it. Now the next thing I'm going to do is go to the internet and Fingal kettlebells and I need to find a suitable logo. So I'm going to choose this one and copy image. Go back to publisher and paste. Now Control and C or Control and V are other ways of cutting and pasting. With Microsoft Office programs, there are usually at least two ways to do something. So for instance, copying, you could go to home, copy, and then paste, or you could just do Control and C and Control and V and it'll paste it in place for you. Now, this is an image. So if I double click on it, I have access to the picture toolbar. So the first thing I'm going to do is crop the image. And you can see the little handles around the edge. I'm going to take that and I'm just going to hide some of the white space around the image. Now, if you want that white space back, all you do is select it and select crop and just move the handles back out and you'll have your hidden space. And then you'll have the hidden parts back. So say for instance, if you had an image of say three people in the picture and you wanted to remove someone from it, you could just hide them by using the crop tool. Now I'm just going to select kettlebells and I'm just going to use the arrows to move it up closer to Fingal. So there we go. Now the next thing I'm going to do is put in an image. So I'm going to go to picture and I'm going to choose a woman with a kettlebell. Just insert it. Now again I'm going to crop this image. So I just go to the crop tool and I just want to get rid of some of the stuff out on the edge here. And maybe, yes, leave that as it is. And it's centered. And I'm just going to make it slightly smaller. Okay, and center it. Now the next thing I'm going to do is go up to picture styles. Click here. It offers me a range of frames. I'm going to choose this one. And that looks fine. I'm just going to move the kettlebells closer to Fingal. So let's say for instance you want to group text. You're working on a logo and when you move the logo you don't want to have to select each item every time. So what you can do is first of all select say the word kettlebells, then press the shift key, which is the key with the arrow facing up, choose Fingal, and if you move the text around, they're both selected together, you can move them at whichever box you choose and both will move together. And then you can also go to group in the home ribbon and whenever you move one text box, all text boxes will go. So for even if you've used drawing tools, the same thing applies. So it's useful, say if you're using something like a logo and you don't want to lose bits. Now I'm going to ungroup these. You need to ungroup them if you want to work on them separately. And I'm just going to move this image up a little bit. I'm going to go back to home, draw a text box. So I want to put in the slogan for Fingal kettlebells, which is fit, strong, happy. I will select those. Select a suitable font, in this case Arial Black, and the size I'm going for is 16. So I've aligned it centrally, both vertically and horizontally. Now the next thing I want to do is put in a little dot between the words fit, strong and happy. So I go to insert, symbol, and I'm going to choose this dot. And again, I'm going to go insert. Now, if you want more symbols, you just click on more symbols. So in this case, the font is Arial Black and it offers me the range available for that. But I can also go down to the word symbols, and that offers me other options. Or I can go down to wingdings. There's wingdings, wingdings 2 and wingdings 3. And they offer things like bells and typewriters and various other things, which may be useful from time to time. However, I'm just going to insert a large dot and close. And I'm just going to put in a space between the dot and happy. Next, I'm going to select fit and the dot. I'm going to go to text box and I'm going to A. As you can see, there is a black line underneath, so black is the default at the moment. I'm going to make that red. And then I'm going to choose the dot and happy, and again I'm going to make that red. And it's centered. Now I'm going to go back to home, draw another text box, and I'm just going to type in the website for Fingal Kettlebells, which is fingalkettlebells.ie. So make sure that your first W is also lowercase. Select it and choose your font, which in this case is also going to be Arial Black, but it's going to be size 14. Now you can always put in your own values here. The program offers you a number like 4, 5, 6, 10, 11, 12, 14, 16, 20, 24, and then it jumps to 26. So you could say, for instance, make it 25 if you wished. But in this case, we're going to make it 14. Okay, and we're going to center it. So that's your cover finished. The next section we're going to go to is the back middle page. Again, I'm going to draw a text box. Go to Fingal Kettlebells and copy the contact details, just Control and C. Go back to Publisher and paste it in here. I'm going to select them and I'm going to choose the font. In this case, it's going to be Arial. I'm going to make it bold and I'm going to make it font size 26. I'm going to change the font color to black and I'm going to center it. Now, the email address I am going to change the size of because it won't all fit on one line, so I want it to fit on one line, and I'm going to change it to 16 and just put in the return. Now I'm going to select that again and I'm going to go to Home and Paragraph, which gives me this dialog box, and I'm going to put in some more space between the lines. So in this case I'm going to make it 1.25 just to make it stand out a little bit more. So there are the contact details. So now I need to find a suitable image. When selecting images from the internet, you need to consider what they are going to be used for. So if you're just going to take an image and you're going to put it on, say, a website or whatever, there are different considerations if you're going to take an image to print it. An image used on the internet has to be between 75 and 100 pixels per inch. That means in an inch you have 75 to 100 little squares made up of different colors. If you're going to print an image, you need to have 350 pixels per inch in order for the picture to look good on paper. So with that in mind, if you're going to be printing it or you're going to be resizing it when you take it into a document, you need to go for full size image. So if you go to more sizes, there will be a range. So this spans the range from 150 to 760 by 760. And that's the one we're going to use. So all I do is copy image and then paste. Okay, so that image is too large for the area for which I want it. So I'm just going to double click. I'm first of all going to crop because I want to get rid of all this white around the edge. And you will see the little handles again, and you just catch them and pull them in. If you want that white space back, or you want whatever is hidden, all you've got to do is select it and pull the handle back out, and you have it back. Okay, I'm just going to deselect that, and I'm going to reselect it and just catch it from a corner. You should always resize images from a corner. It doesn't matter which corner you choose. It could be this one or that one. It doesn't matter. But it has to be from a corner, because if you pull it from the side, you skew the image. You also need to remember Control and Z. So if you do something wrong, pause and then try Control and Z. And there is a pretty good chance you will be back to where you were before you made the change. So that looks fine. I'm just going to move it down a little bit. And then I'm going to go over here and go Control and C and Control and V. And I'm just going to move this onto the bottom of the middle back page. So that's the middle back page finished. Okay, so now we're on to the back page. Now, one thing I should remind you, when you start a document, you should always save it. And then as you work on the document, each time you make a change or a significant change, because computers can be unstable and things like electricity going off or just the system collapsing could mean that after you've spent 2 hours doing something and then you lose everything. So save it at the beginning and do Control and S as you go along. Now we're going to go to the back page next, and we're going to Home, Draw Text Box, and I'm going to have 2 text boxes on this page. I'm just going to draw the other text box. Now the other thing I would warn you about is be careful when you're drawing text boxes. Don't be drawing text boxes all over the page. Because what happens is things get a little confused. So to avoid that, maybe just draw a text box as you're working on it, and then when you're finished, go to the next text box and draw it. But I have drawn 2 in this case. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is going to go to the timetable, and I'm going to select these, Control C, and I'm just going to Publisher, and I'm just going to Control V to paste them in. Now I'm going to go up to the View menu, and I'm going to zoom in so I can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to select all these, and I'm going to decide on what font to use. So I'm going to Home, I'm going to select the fonts, and I'm going to choose Arial, Bold, and the point size I'm going to use is 14. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use Increase Indent. There's 2, you'll see these 2 icons at the top. One increase indent and the other one decreases the indent. In this I'm going to just use increase indent. Now I'm going to sort out the text. With this I have formatted the text, but I don't want, you see when I've pressed the return key, I've got a big space between Tuesday and Swords and 10 a.m. beginner. So I'm just going to delete that. So now I need to format the text. Okay, I've selected this and I have chosen Arial, font size 14. And I'm going to use, you have increase indent or decrease indent. I'm going to go to increase indent and just move in the text a little bit, because I don't want to center it, because if I center it, obviously the text will be centered, but it'll be uneven down the left hand side. So I want to keep it even down the left hand side, but I want to indent it a bit. So increase indent does that. I'm going to turn on this, which shows what they call invisibles. So for instance, this symbol represents where I put in a tab. This represents where I press the return key or the enter key, and it's called a paragraph return. And these dots represent spaces, and this again is another carriage return. Now I turn that on sometimes because I want to see where my spacing is. And sometimes if you're not sure why something appears in a particular way, this can help you find out why. Now I'm going to delete this carriage return. The reason why is I don't want a big gap between the Tuesday and 10 a.m. on the next line. So I want to keep Tuesday and its times together. So I can use something that's called soft carriage return. So it takes some of the formatting for Tuesday, but it doesn't take the spacing format. So in this case, I will press the Shift key, which is on the left hand side. It's an arrow pointing upwards, and I press return. And it moves my text onto the next line without leaving a big gap between the Tuesday and the 10 a.m. I'm going to do the same for this one. Now Wednesday, I'm just going to move it up. So again, that they're together. And the same goes for Thursday. So now I'm going to select everything again. I'm just going to turn off this because I'm happy enough with where the formatting is. Now the next thing I'm going to do is go to paragraph in the home menu. And what I want to do is I want to put a little bit more space between the Wednesday and the class times on the previous day. Same thing for Thursday and Friday. So what I'm going to do is before paragraphs, line spacing before paragraphs, I'm just going to put in 12 points of space. So you can see now it's created more space between Wednesday and the previous day's classes, and so on and so forth. The next thing I want to do is I'm just going to go to view, and I'm going to just put this back down to 75% because I can see what I'm doing. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drawing tools, and I'm going to shape fill. Now I can choose this tab here, and it'll give me a range of colors, and I can choose more colors. Say for instance, whatever color. I can pinpoint it more, or I can use Pantone colors. Okay, but what I'm going to do is, you see this little arrow here, I'm going to select that, just move this to the right, and I'm going to go for fill effects, and I'm going to choose two colors, and red and black are the colors for fingal kettlebell, so I'm just going to choose those two colors. You need to bear in mind that I want to be able to read the text, so I'm going to choose diagonal up, and because there's only a little bit of black on two corners, I'm going to choose that and go OK. Then OK. Now it's difficult to see the text, so now I need to change the text color. So I'm going to select that, go to text box, go to the A. Black is the default color at the moment there, so I'm just going to choose white so that we can see it clearly. So that's the class times. Now I'm just going to go to the second text box. Again, I'm going to view and zoom in. I'm going to go down to my Word document, and I'm just going to copy the prices. Control C, back to Publisher, Control V. Now I just want to bring these together, a little bit of formatting, and same, and I'm just going to select all those, go to text, and I'm just going to center them. I'm going to reselect them, and I'm going to change my font to Arial, make it bold, and the size font I'm looking for is 12, so that's fine. Now I'm going to go to home, paragraph, and I'm just going to look and see about putting a bit more space between the lines, so 125. Again, you can type in your own value there. If you press the arrows, it goes up in increments of 0.25 once you after one, but you can actually put in lower values, or you can actually type your own value in if you wish. So 1.25 is fine for what I'm looking for. So there you have the class times. So I'm just going to go to view and zoom out, and there we have page 1 of the leaflet finished. Now make sure that you stay within these blue lines, because otherwise the text may get lost in the folds, or some of them may not print if it's too far outside the line. Now we're going on to page 2. Page 2 is much more straightforward. We're going to put in a text box. Now you can manage text boxes in two ways. I'm going to show you both ways. First way is I draw a text box, okay, across the 3 columns. Now the next thing I'm going to do is go to text box and columns, and again Microsoft Publisher offers you templates, but if you go to more columns you can customize the size. So I want 3 columns and I just want to put 1.949 spacing between the columns. Okay, and I'm going to go down to my Word document. First of all, choose what are kettlebells, Control C and paste it, and then I'm going to choose the benefits of kettlebells. Control C. I'm just back to Publisher, just press return, and I'm just going to Control V and paste in that text. So as you can see, all the text is now in, and it runs across 3 columns. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select all this. There's some blue text there and I don't want blue text, so I'm just going to make sure it's all black. I'm not going to go with this text box with the 3 columns. In fact, I'm going to go with 3 separate text boxes, and I'm going to show you how to link them. The reason for going with 3 separate text boxes is that it can give you more control between the text and the images. So first of all, I'm just going to go up to column, make it 1 column. As you can see, there are little red dots around the edge of the box. That means there's text hidden. So I'm just going to resize this and make it 1 column width. I'm going to go to Home, draw a text box, Home again, draw another text box in the 3rd column. I'm going to go back to the first text box, and as you can see there are red dots around the edge, which means there's text hidden. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to go to text box tools, and I'm going to select create link, which looks like a chain link, and I'm going to go to the second box, and you can see the cursor has changed. It's like a jug with an arrow. Click the left mouse button and it flows into it. Again, there are still red circles around the edge of the box. It means there's still text hidden. So I'm going to leave the cursor in that box, go up to create link, and then click in to the last box. Okay, so all my text is in. So the advantage of either using the 3 columns or using the linked text boxes is that if I resize this text box, the text I've moved moves into the other text box and then onto the next text box. So if you cut and paste something and you're trying to continue it on to another column, and you copy and you paste it into the next column, you run the risk of losing text. So by linking text boxes, even if you resize this text box or you put in some other words, all it does is move your text down and you don't lose any of it. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select all the text, and I'm going to select my body text font, and I'm going to use a font called Garamond, and I'm going to go for font size 11. The next thing I'm going to do is go to Home, Paragraph, and I'm going to change the spacing between lines to 1.25, and I just need to resize my text boxes again so they're all even. And then I'm going to take each of the headings and I'm going to give them Area Black as a font, and I'm going to put the size as 18. Now when you're laying out any document, if you choose a particular font for body text, it needs to be consistent throughout the whole document. So if you choose Garamond 11 for the body text, all body text needs to be Garamond size 11. If you choose, actually I'm going to change this. So I'm going to choose area around it, make it bold, size 18, and for all the headings. But I need to be consistent. So all my headings in the document need to be the same size. Okay, make that 18 and area around it. So that's all my text. The final thing I need to do on this is put in a font. Now I've just noticed on the text, say for instance here, kettlebells has become hyphenated in the heading. You don't want to have things hyphenated in headings, particularly words on posters and also headings in your leaflet. So what I'm going to do is hold down the Shift key and press return and create a soft carriage return and just move kettlebell onto the same line. So the next thing I'm going to do is select an image, and I'm just going to go to the internet and I'm going to select this row of kettlebells and just see full size image. copy image, and then I'm going to paste it. Now when I paste this image, it's going to be a little too large for the page. Now there are a number of ways of resizing it. I could go up to picture tools and resize it over here. I could double click again. I could click on the arrow and get the picture dialog box and resize it there. If you're going to resize it, make sure that lock aspect ratio is ticked so that when you resize it, the proportions are kept the same. What I prefer to do is go to view and just zoom out. Just move this over here and just resize it like this. So choose whichever way appeals to you most. Okay, and just a little bit more. Okay. Now I'm going to go back up and put it to 75. So there's my image. Now, the problem with my image is that it's hiding some of the text. Also, you can see what's so great about kettlebells is by itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to double click this and I'm just going to crop the image a little bit. I'm still missing some text, so I'm just going to double click and see the crop tool, and again just move it down a little bit. So now all my text is there. What you need to be aware of and pay special attention to is that, say for instance, when you move your image, we're just going to move it up a little bit just so that you can see that there isn't some text stranded by itself. The paragraph has been broken up. Ideally, bring it down so that you can see all the text. When you're finished laying out the page, look at the text and the image together and see if there are any orphans, that's words just stranded on a line by themselves, and fix them. So we have our two pages on this side. We have the cover, middle, back, and the back page. So I'm just going to mention one more thing. Say for instance the colors that we're using, red and black, don't really lend themselves to doing this, but I'm just going to show you anyway so that you know how to do it. So you're going to click on shapes and I'm going to select a square or a rectangle rather, and I'm going to go to drawing tools. I'm going to click on the arrow here. I'm going to go to colors and lines and choose fill effects, two colors, and I'm just going to choose a color that won't be too dark, and then I'm going to choose shading styles. So there's a range of ones, so I'll just choose this one and go OK. Obviously you can't see any of the text. So what you do is if you go up to bring backward or send backward, in this case we're going to use send to back because I want it back behind the text and back behind the images. So as you can see, there's a color box and it can look quite nice depending on what colors you've put in. I'm actually just going to select this again, fill effects. I'm just going to choose a color that would show that off a little better. Something. We'll try the red. Go OK. So that doesn't look bad. You can put in a box with your color behind it if that's what you would like to do. So that's our leaflet finished effectively. So now we're going to print.